Today, I am so excited. We haven't been live in the Cancer-Free Canine page in a long time, you guys, since Facebook kind of changed their way to go live. And I wanted to share with you Rita Hogan's Cancer-Free Canine Stories, which we've never talked to her about cancer-free canine stories. And she has a canine cancer webinar on Saturday. So Rita, share with us your stories, because everyone I've interviewed on this has a different approach, has great outcomes with a lot of different angles. There's more than one way to cure a dog or a cat.
Hi. Yeah, and we were talking about that. There's more than one way to reach cure or to have longevity or extend. I mean, obviously we're talking about extending a dog's life under a cancer diagnosis, right? There's so many ways. And when I've been practicing herbalism with dogs for over 20 years. And I've had, let's see, I think I've, like my own dogs, I've had about 16 of them in the last 20 years. I did some rescue too. Um, and I think I've only had, I don't think I don't think I've ever had a dog with cancer, which, you know, I've, you know, I've had, my dogs have passed away, yes, but I've had to put them down. But I've never really had a dog with cancer. I currently have a dog with anal gland cancer. Currently, her name's Lola. She's not my dog. I've only had her for a couple of years. She's my partner's dog, and we are. Last year, we were told that she was not going to live. Um, do what you can, that whole thing. And she's still here. She ebbs and flows, I kind of go with diet, like, she goes through her days where she'll eat a ton, and then she goes through days where she won't eat that much. And uh but and like she because it's anal cancer, she'll get really bad diarrhea. Um, but we control that diarrhea with blackberry leaf tincture. And it works so great. I mean, blackberry leaf tincture, just everyone should have some. It firms up her stool because it's an astringent, and so it just eh, um so it makes her stool have form, and so she can hold it then, and she doesn't poop all over the house. We've had some dark days in that department, but she's doing really well. And her protocol is pretty simple. So it's is sweet chestnut phytoembryonic therapy, thymus gland, a very large amount of thymus gland. Um, she is having calendula. She has 4 types of mushrooms, um, and the blackberry leaf tincture. And then we changed her diet to a uh, uh, prey model. She was eating commercial raw, and now she just eats bone-in chicken, pastured chicken, bone-in, and then we give her a bit of raw milk with her supplements and her greens in. That's it. That's what she's got, and she's doing really well. I'm really happy to see it. And she's getting a new treatment uh, in December. It's a new technology called, I don't know if you know what it's called, Anacell Biotech.
No,
Um,
tell me about it.
it is amazing. And I don't know what they know what the impact for cancer is, right? It does other really amazing things, but it can really help the immune system. You have to stop all supplements when you're on it, all like things that anti-inflammatories. You have to stop anti-inflammatories with the process. But it's amnio tissue. So what they do is when a mare is foaling, okay, this is just blow your mind. When a mare is foaling, they usually throw out the sac,
The
okay?
placenta,
Yes,
right?
they throw out the amnio tissue. They throw it out. Well, some bright minds. I don't I don't know the whole story on how they figured this out, but because it hasn't been a really long time. That tissue can be freeze dried into these little things that can like heal wounds that horses are put down for. The mares are not hurt. It's a total like program where you can just go in there and he pays for all the vet care. They get cuddled and cared for at least a week or more. The tissue is brought to a lab, kind of like an organ transplant. It's tested to make sure that there's nothing going on with it, you know. And then it can be injected. And like my pug who lost her eye, it would have saved her eye. And
You know
pop,
what? I am just hearing about this. Somebody else did like a stem cell transplant in their cat's eye, and the cat was losing its eye, and it is back to normal.
yes, yes, absolutely. And it will heal the eye. And it would have like she had like a hole in her eye, and it would have healed the eye. And you're in the horse world. They grew like a donkey got its um hoof cut off, completely severed, gone, just a bloody stump, right? And they were going to put it down. And the woman called, his name is Brandon, who runs the company. They injected the bloody stump with the Anacell, and it grew back in 280 days completely, no problem walking like it never happened. I know. So I am getting my dog a treatment. They have different types of treatments. So I'm working with a vet locally to get a treatment just to give it a try. I'm just going to give it a try and I'll report back.
Oh
Um,
my
they've
gosh.
used it for like stage 4 kidney disease. They use it to heal wounds that again animals are put down for. They have helped some dogs walk again after being paralyzed in the spine. So, like, there's everything for life in that tissue, like every building block, you know, because a lot of times the problem that we're not healing, and sometimes this doesn't apply to cancer, but the problem that we don't heal is that we're missing one of those blocks, you know, and like if you're building a foundation of the house, if you're missing a few blocks, we're going to have problems. We can't get it won't be sound, right? So, um, fascinating, fascinating.
That is so crazy. I have to tell you a quirky little story. I am an AI tech through Colorado State University, AI meaning artificial insemination, not artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
And so I worked as a breeding manager at a significantly decent sized breeding farm. And when the mares would foal and drop their placenta, I was covered in placenta juice. And I would take that placenta and let the mare next door that was due to foal in a couple days smell it, and the other mares that were kind of close to foaling. All those mares would foal in one night. It stimulated them.
It does not surprise me at all. So, you know, there's some really fun things on the horizon, you know, for me, as long as other animals aren't hurt in the process. And,
Well, it's stem cell basically,
yeah, and it's thrown out, which is just crazy, right?
or the
And,
dogs eat it, you
And
know.
yes, it's true. And it's also cross species. So the best one that they have found that works is from horses, because it's clear and like the dog is much darker and people didn't like using it because the liquid was really, really dark. Um,
Well, in Rita, horses don't get a whole lot of cancer. They're actually using horse serum in some breast cancer studies.
yes, exactly. So it just really interesting stuff. Okay, so let's talk about successful cancer stories.
Yeah.
I've been doing this for, like I said, over 20 years, hardcore for 15 in the, I would say, consultation process, right? Um, so when I get a cancer dog, you know, one of the biggest issues with cancer is you don't know how big your window is, you know, unless you subject your dog to some really invasive procedures, which I'm not a big fan of, but you can do you and I'll do me. But you know, you don't know how big your window is. And even as a person, I'm a cancer survivor. So I'm my own cancer survival story of ovarian cancer. So uh I definitely can speak from experience of having cancer and all the stuff that goes along with it. But uh, you know, you don't know how like big your window is. And here's my thing. Never believe anyone who tells you what the window is. Don't do it. Just be like, okay, yeah, or I don't want to know. I don't want to know is a great, great answer to that. Don't tell me. Because once you put that in your brain, for yourself or for your animals, you start resonating that vibration. You start resonating it. You're like, oh, and you start talking about it. Oh, she only has a couple months. She only has a couple months. Oh, she only has a couple. Then the family will call, ask you how well, they said she only had a couple months. You want to not do that. They have done studies where you can tell a cancer patient pretty much they will die on the date, to the day. If you have a year to live, to the day. And the thing is that, you want, for me, and I find this very successful in cancer treatment. When your dog gets a cancer diagnosis, you want to acknowledge that this is happening. You want to take a long, deep breath, and you want to enjoy the dog in front of you. Try not, depending on how severe it is, try not to, every day is not a cancer day. Every day is not a time to go down the rabbit hole of research, trying to cure them, trying to do all that stuff. You want to get your protocol, your cancer support protocol in place, and then you want to work your protocol, adjusting, but don't do it every day. Do it twice a week. You're going to do twice a week. You're going to spend a while researching and talking to people, or, but people will go down the rabbit hole so that you're an absolute stressed out mess, right? And your dog spends most of their time worried about you because they can smell your adrenaline and smell the cortisol. Your dog knows there's something going on with them for sure, but you're smelling like cortisol and adrenaline. They're not. So, we want to, there's a huge emotional component. So people who change that vibration, they have much better outcomes, in my opinion. Another thing that I really like with the dogs that have done really well on my protocols for supporting cancer is flower essences. Also for that emotional component for the dog. And usually the person ends up taking the same essences. Not all the time, but a lot of the times. So there's so many ways to support cancer in herbalism and also in homeopathy. So, I have a dog that I worked with. Mom came in just, of course, beside herself about it. They've given my dog a year to live. Dog is still living. It's been like 5 years. My dog, a year to live. Oh my God. This is happening. One thing is we stabilize their nervous system, right? The nervous system has to be stabilized. It has to be supported. Your nervous system and your dog's nervous system. Very, very important. Number two, we worked with homeopathy to find the right remedy, and we gave it a try along with other herbs. So when we took the homeopathy away, dog didn't do as well. We added it back in. And a lot of homeopathic remedies are not to be given forever, but in this case, dog is still taking them, still doing very, very well. We adjust it every now and then. Just mom is beyond happy, right? She has forgotten all about her dog having cancer. The vet still says they have cancer. But for me, like with a dog, it's the day to day and the life quality, right? Your dog will let you know when it's time, and the life quality is so important. And she doesn't focus on the cancer anymore. She focuses on, are we having a good day? And it's been many, many years still having a good day, and just doesn't focus on it. But the homeopathic remedies that we chose for the dog, I believe and these are not for your dog. Homeopathics are very dog individual symptom specific. Okay. But it was carcinosin, um, lychesis. I have a card downstairs. I can't remember the third one. It might be arsenicum. Um, and the
I've had success with arsenicum, belladonna, carcinosum, and lachesis. I know are really great remedies. Conium. What
they
else?
really are. I mean, there's so many that, that
Phosphorus. I've had great success with phosphorus.
yes.
Yeah.
And
But
you want to work with
but like
someone.
you said, thank you for saying that. It is symptom specific, you guys. I
Yeah.
do homeopathy a little different because I try to hit the root cause of the cancer or the malfunction, let's call it that. So if you like think backwards to like the insults upon the body, even though they don't express the symptoms, if they've been over vaccinated with no symptom expressions, I'll still use a vaccine detox protocol.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's really great for you to say vaccine detox protocol. So cancer is toxicity. It's plain and simple. Now, looking at the root of cancers is what kind of toxicity, or is it a blend? Is it emotionally toxicity? Is it emotional toxicity? Because the issue is the nervous system can tank the immune system so badly, which I will go over on Saturday. It has, I mean, if you look at cancer researchers and um, there's a researcher in British Columbia. She's amazing. Her name is, I mess with her name, Chen Call, um, Chenchal or Chancall Cabrera. She is an herbalist that is a medical herbalist, and all she does is cancer, right? That's all she works with all day long, 365 days a year. And she is just awesome. But, she talks about how the nervous system controls the immune system. And, you know, I don't even know for the last 10 years, one of my sayings is, there's always an emotional component to every disease, and that includes cancer. So is it emotional toxicity? Is it your toxicity? Is it your dog's toxicity? How stressed is the household? Stress is a huge component. People overlook it because you can't see it. It's like the wind, right? You can see it if you pay attention, but it's a big deal. And then environmental toxicity. But again, how we react to a cancer diagnosis can really have an effect on how the liver is functioning, how our organs are functioning, how our lymphatic system is functioning. And the lymphatic system, which Poppy and I have talked about before, the lymphatic system is the vehicle in which the immune system acts. That is from my mentor, Matthew Wood, and it changed my life. Like that one sentence, the lymphatic system is the vehicle in which the immune system acts. Huge, huge,
I love that you brought
huge.
that up.
Yeah,
So the detox pathways.
yes.
Um, so lymphatic is one of the detox pathways. And then we've got liver, kidney, stomach, skin. Um, what else? I'm missing one. There's six
Lungs,
lungs,
lungs.
but also nobody talks about blood detoxes.
Yes. And
And I
that's
was just thinking about that the other day. That is not on anybody's radar,
it's part
but
of the liver.
but
It's part of the
also
liver.
the nervous system. I mean, you could literally detox the nervous system.
Yeah, everything's connected. That's the thing. Like everything's connected. We've been conditioned to think about, compartmentalize everything, but the liver detox is the lymphatic detox is the skin detox. It's all one thing. Our brains are, our dog's brains are filled with toxins. So, how the body rids itself of toxins. So cancer is just toxicity. And it's also like I was talking today to a group of people and you know, some people have an attitude and you can do whatever you want on your cancer journey because it's yours, or your dog's, and totally get that. However, from my experience, um, your cells are listening. Just like everything that we say about ourselves, everything that we do, uh, really depicts how the next day and the next day and the next day is going to be. You know, um, And it's very, very important to look at cancer not as something that needs to be beat down, killed, maimed, and there's some choice words for it in a lot of cases, right? Um, it's the body's way of protecting the host in many ways, even blood cancers. You know, it gets out of hand and it's allowed to proliferate. The issue is that because we're not doing these maintenance things, like I love seasonal healing because seasonal healing helps prevent disease and treat a dog or a person like they have issues because you're dealing with different organs with the flow of nature all year long. And I can tell you, like, when I was diagnosed with cancer, my life was completely out of control. I wasn't taking care of myself. I was stressed out of my mind. Um, I worked 16-hour days and I was caretaking at the same time. And I knew something was wrong. I ignored it. I just ignored it. I'm like, I'm going to ignore this. It'll go away. Didn't go away. I was very fortunate, but cancers are in the body way, way longer than when you get the diagnosis. And if we learn and teach each other the symptoms to look for and the pathologies and how it expresses in the body, and holistic medicine can really teach a lot of that. Um, and like homeopathy works on symptoms, right? And a lot of times, the interesting thing about cancer, if we were to take our dogs or ourselves and test ourselves for cancer every single day for a year and just agree that we weren't going to freak out about nothing, right? We're just going to do it and we're never ever thinking about the freaking out part. Um, you would most likely notice that tumors come and they go, and they come and they go, and they come and they go. We all have cancer cells in us. Our dogs have them as well. Um, Animals have them in general. Horses are starting to sort of show more because we're vaccinating them like crazy when they don't need it, and we're feeding them just a
Like I
really poor
say,
diet. Um,
yeah,
they are because they're vegans, they don't tend to have the cancers that other animals do in human care. So, like, the issue is that we really want to look at the body as self-healing, but working to it. Instead always having a plan, right? Instead of reacting to something, just looking at how we can support our dogs every single day. And like I said, if we took a test, if there was a test, we would see the ebb and flow of tumors getting bigger, getting smaller, getting bigger, going away, coming back, because our bodies are constantly adjusting to our environment. And so that's I think that's a big issue, is looking at, I think now in our reality right now, in how stressed out we are. Um, and I think the stress and the toxicity in general in pollution, um, you know, uh,
emotion.
yes, pollution
But
is,
PTSD dog owners, like there's this whole new era of dog owners that have PTSD for failing their dogs.
yes, guilt and shame. Yes. And I have actually quite a few clients that have PTSD over their previous dog, and that's the emotional component. We have to learn how to let that go and be kind to ourselves, because none of our dogs that passed away would ever want us to treat ourselves the way that we treat ourselves. You know, um, they just don't. And uh, I think that, when we look at ourselves and we deal with our own stress and anxiety, we heal not only ourselves, we heal our dogs and any organism that shares their home with us. Bird, cat, dog, fish, the whole thing. Um, so I think that sometimes it's not pretty to look at ourselves. And I'm not saying it's your fault your dog has cancer. No way. Um, but subliminally, we take on these energies and we don't forgive ourselves. We don't allow forgiveness in our lives. We get caught up in all of the stress that our lives, things that are beyond our control. And sometimes if you're a person that can't deal with that, you got to scale back. Stop watching the news, stop going on the internet for a while. Take care of yourself, get yourself some peace, learn how to breathe. And your dog will follow suit. So, another cancer success story. Go ahead, Poppy.
I was gonna say, recently we had a guest on about quantum biology and the Wi-Fi effects, and I started shutting off the Wi-Fi at night. I can set it on my modem so it shuts off at like midnight and goes back on at like 7 in the morning, and then removing my cell phone. And then I lost my cell phone in a lift. I just left it there, and they didn't return it right away. So I went like 60 hours with no cell phone, tons of headache, eye issues, heart flutter, all gone with
Oh,
the with
absolutely.
yeah. And my dog is from the small changes that I've done within the household, my dog is acting more like a puppy.
Yeah. So, I'm really glad you brought that one up too. So we haven't had our cell phones very long and our bodies haven't been able to adjust to them. I think our bodies will be able to in the future. I'm having a hot flash, sorry. We'll be able to do it in the future. But the thing is that if you are sleeping with your Wi-Fi on, turn it off. Oh, but our security system is on it. Get a new one. That's my theory on that one. The issue is that if you're sleeping, and not only Wi-Fi, some people sleep with Bluetooth on. Some people sleep with their phones right next to them. My mother's 94 and she survived and she had a great life and she's 94 and she's only had a cell phone for, not very long, maybe 8 years, 8 or 9 years of that life. Um, if this is old school, but you can always get a pager if you really want someone.
People would think you're a terrorist.
Yeah, yeah, you can always get a pager, but people have a lot of like excuses of why. But the issue with Wi-Fi is that cells cannot divide. Um, I would say cell replication, healthy cell replication is very important, and they have a hard time replicating. You want your cells to replicate exact duplicates of healthy cells, right? So Wi-Fi can interrupt that process. And when we do the most of that is at night when we're sleeping, right? That's why humans sleep to repair. And they don't repair well in the effects of Wi-Fi and the effects of internet. There's the signal and then there's the router. You need to get rid of both of them. And then there's your cell phone and then turn off your Bluetooth. And you really will feel the difference and your dogs will feel the difference. I want my dogs to have at least 10 hours a day of no Wi-Fi. And like when you leave the house, turn it off.
Yeah. Why not? Why
Your
not
dogs don't
unplug it?
need Wi-Fi. Um, there's a lot of convenience things that the world has created, and they fall into just because you can doesn't mean you should. Um, and they're affecting our lives in a negative way because they belong to that thing where, in 2002, I had never met anyone with cancer, and I never had a dog, never been around with a dog with cancer, and I boarded dogs. I remember 2002 because that's when I opened up Almost Home Pet Farm. And I remember like in 2004, I met this little wiener dog that had cancer that stayed with me. And I was like, oh my God, it's the first dog I've ever met with cancer. Um, that's 20 years ago. And now 1 in 2 dogs will die of cancer. 1 in 4 people will get a diagnosis this year. That is scary statistics. And what has changed? What has changed? Wi-Fi in homes, smart meters, smart bulbs, smart homes. They're not smart, they're dumb. And they affect, I mean, they're not smart.
They're dumb. Yeah,
The
it's
marketing is
it.
smart. The marketing is smart. And the thing is I wish that all of this tech that we have didn't hurt the human and the organism, right? I wish they didn't, but unfortunately, it's not the case right now. Um, so I think less is more. I'm not saying you to live in a cave. We're talking here on the Zoom, right? We're talking here on the Zoom, but
Right. There's benefits.
yeah, but you need time away, and the phone thing is your biggest thing. And those little earbuds you stick in your ear and you leave them in there forever. Um, mm, um, brain cancer statistics. I mean, brain cancer's through the roof right now. It's not something they're talking about, but it is happening. And so we want to protect our bodies and our dogs' bodies as much as we can. Again, we don't want to go down the rabbit hole and get crazy about it. But the little things that we can do, and you don't need to do it like right away, but like for instance, if you're in the store and you're going to buy a new appliance, right? One has Wi-Fi, the oven has Wi-Fi, the oven, right? And one is doesn't. Buy the one that doesn't.
It's
There
so
it is.
ridiculous
Yeah.
how all my appliances have Wi-Fi hookups, and I'm like,
And you can turn that
oh,
off. You can turn that off. It's for smart homes and for the future, but our bodies haven't caught up to technology. Um, and then, what else has in common? Our food has gotten worse. The pollution, people talk about climate change, no climate change. I wish they would just stop saying all of that and just talk about pollution because
yeah,
pollution is real. You can't deny pollution. There's very few sources of water that are clean anymore. Pollution is real. Okay. We all are responsible for pollution. And pollution is a big part of cancer. It, again, emotional toxicity and environmental toxicity. And the good thing about plants is they can heal on an emotional level and a physical level, right? So there's quite a few dogs that I've had over the years that have lived, 2, 3, 4 years. I had a hemangiosarcoma dog live 4 extra years, 4 extra years,
amazing,
right?
Rita.
On the right herbal protocol. Um, One of my things with hemangiosarcoma is I used what's called plant stem cells. And ever since I was introduced to them, I've been using them in um, cases of cancer and like lymphoma, right? Which is a blood cancer. There's a phytoembryonic therapy called tamarisk. I love tamarisk for lymphoma. But when you combine it with sweet chestnut, which is a lymphatic, um, and remember, B cells, well, you may not know this, but the lymphatic system is highly regulated by B cells, which are bone marrow cells, right? And what is sweet chestnut good at? It's good at moving the lymphatic and healing the lymphatic system, and it's great at hemangiosarcoma because of its influence on the bones and kidneys. So that one's a good one. I'm going to do some more like intensives. Like Saturday, I'm doing an intensive, a general intensive, and then I'm going to do a hemangiosarcoma intensive, a lymphoma, mammary cancer, the different types of things that dogs struggle with the most. Um,
And I'll
and
drop the link for that.
yeah, and then they're really having great, great results for lymphoma and ivermectin. Um,
As
uh,
long as it's not a herding dog.
yes,
Or
that,
that,
yeah.
and I've had that question asked so many times. Can I use ivermectin on my dog for cancer? I'm like, is it a herding dog? And they're like, well, yeah. I'm like, don't do that.
No, no, that's a genetic problem. Um, I are there people with herding dogs that don't know that?
Yeah, there's some people who bought cute little miniature Australian shepherds and keep them in their homes and stuff. And they just, so the MDR-1, the methylated drug resistant one, you guys, if your dog has that, you cannot give our ivermectin.
No, no.
So I guess the rule of thumb is like if your dog has white legs, stay away.
Oh, I
Is
like
that,
that.
yeah.
White legs, stay away. I like that. If your dog has white legs, don't take the chance.
Yes.
I love that.
Thank
I
you.
love little things like that to help you remember things, right? But um, I don't know the research in dogs, but the research in humans with ivermectin and lymphoma is quite good.
Yeah.
Um, uh, um, there's so many different ways. I think that, when you look at herbs for cancer, right? When we look at herbs for cancer, there's some ones that, different herbs that really stand out. Okay. So one of them, astragalus, is a very good like cancer herb for different types of cancer. And it also can help protect the body against chemotherapy for anyone that uses chemotherapy on their dogs, or it protects the immune system, which is really great, right? Um, I think that milk thistle is another one. Ashwagandha is very anti-cancer. We have our whole slew of mushrooms, right? Um,
And I
and
love mushrooms because mushrooms actually look like cancer. So it like fits in that doctrine of signatures.
doctor signatures, yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of them will look really funky.
Yeah. Like
Um,
mutations, right?
yes, and the newsflash is that mushrooms are not herbs.
They're
So
fungus.
a lot of people, just like dogs are not cats, mushrooms are not herbs, and they need to be used differently. They need to be used in very, very large amounts when it comes to cancer. So,
Okay.
you cannot skimp on it. So if you're using like just a tincture of mushrooms, then add a powder. If you're using just a powder, I would add a tincture. Um, uh, I like to use both. Um, like shiitake, I like to use the mycelium when I'm dealing with cancer, as well as the fruiting body. But mushrooms are, you have to use like what's called a material dose. Um, different types of, we've heard before, green tea is excellent. It's anti-cancer. I think I mentioned milk thistle, turmeric, ginger, you know,
Burdock.
burdock. Burdock root is awesome for cancer, especially blood cancer. That's a really good one for blood cancer. Um, and some of the like holy basil is a wonderful anti-cancer, but some of these remedies that deal with the nervous system are also very good with cancer, because when you stabilize the heart and nervous system, and get your body out of fight or flight and your dog's body out of fight or flight. And I guarantee you, if you are in fight or flight, so is your dog, because of their interaction with you. Um, so if you can get your dog or yourself out of fight or flight, um, and stabilize the nervous system, you're going to have access to the liver. You're going to have access to the lymphatics. Your organs are going to work better, because in fight or flight, you're just working with the cardiac system and the musculature. And that's not going to do much for cancer. Um, Mistletoe, like there is a stem cell of mistletoe that I use with dogs. Some dogs with cancer, if they fit the profile of mistletoe. Um, I had a mistletoe dog. It was just two remedies. It was a lymphatic and mistletoe. Did absolutely wonderful as a support protocol, raw fed. Um, and I haven't heard that they passed on. So they might be still alive. Some people like go out of your life and they just, and you hear back from them like 6 years later. Oh my God, yeah, my dog lived an extra 5 years.
Yeah.
And I was like, God, it would have been really nice to know. That
Yeah.
would have
And you guys remember that. Tell your practitioners on your wins as well as your woes, please. We need to hear those stories.
absolutely, absolutely. And then um you really want to deal with the dog in front of you. And you know, I've seen dogs go into remission just by giving them things for their nervous system, right?
Like, do you do skull cap with dogs?
Yes, I love skullcap.
I do too.
I love passion flower. I use rhodiola, but I only use the phytoembryonic because rhodiola's endangered. But the phytoembryonic allows the plant to reproduce. So I really love the phytoembryonic of rhodiola. But giving it an adaptogen, um, for some dogs can just help them stop reacting so much. And it's really how we react to the things in our life. There's huge correlation between unmanaged stress. So a life event that the stress remains high for a long period of time, and then 3, 4, 6 months later, there's a cancer diagnosis, right? And cancer researchers really are seeing that correlation between that emotional upset and then the cancer diagnosis. And what happens there? And the issue is that a high level of unmanaged stress, it tanks the immune system. It deals, it messes with us physically, because in the last 100 years, we've been conditioned that the brain is completely cut off from the body, right? If you have a problem emotionally, they're going to send you to a therapist or a psychiatrist or a psychologist,
Or
but
drugs.
or drugs. But you're not going to get those drugs until you go see the psychiatrist. And the thing is that it's not separate. A lot of times our emotional upheaval can be a vitamin deficiency. Vitamin D. Vitamin D is so important. Test your dogs, test yourself. You need to be in the 100 percentile. Women need to be between 70 and 100% of vitamin D saturation. When I got cancer, my vitamin D was 18%.
Wow.
And stress depletes vitamin D.
Now, for your dogs, who do you use for testing vitamin D?
Parsley Pet, I believe. Not for my dogs, no. I order my own testing.
Okay.
Yeah. So I have my own, like, I can order my own testing. Long
Do you
story.
do that for clients too,
No,
or
I just do it for my
okay?
own.
Because I know VDI Labs also.
Yeah, VDI
Oh,
Labs is great.
yeah.
I think that um what is the other one? Oh, I'm
Uh,
gonna have to
I
get my,
know RX Pets does it, I
they do
think.
vitamin D. Yeah,
Yeah, I think they have a collaborative test with their product.
there's one on Dr. Judy's website that does vitamin D as well. I like to test for vitamin D and heavy metals. Those are two that I really like to test for. Um, Parsley Pet's good for that.
Okay. I've
Um,
never used them.
yeah, it's Chelsea from Solutions.
Okay.
And there's lots of other ones. Dr. Tobias does the hair testing, but heavy metal exposure. And one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is that when there is yeast overgrowth, 9 times out of 10, you're going to have heavy metal
I
toxicity.
learned that from you, and
Yeah.
it's pretty profound. Like that changed everything for me. Thank you for sharing that.
Well, and that's the thing. Like I said, cancer is in the body for a long time. And we don't see these little tiny things that happen to our dog as cancer, right? But it's building an environment in which cancer can thrive. And an environment in which cancer can thrive is just an environment where organ health is declining. Okay. Organ health is declining. I would much rather my dog get cancer when he's 17 years old than when
Um,
he's 10. Okay.
yeah.
Right?
Or even two.
Yes, or even 2. So that's the thing. Like we want to work in a preventative mindset so that we're not reacting, that we work our plan. Will the plan work? Don't know. But I know that I'm not going to obsess about it, but I'm definitely going to try. And I can tell you, again, this is my first dog that's ever had cancer. I've only had her 2 years and she's 15, the Basset Hound.
Wow.
Well, she'll be 15 in January, so she's almost 15. Um, and uh, you know, I've had other things happen, of course. I've had benign tumors in a dog,
Me too. And
I've had
I've never had a cancer dog either.
yeah. I've
Yeah.
had benign tumors killed my heart dog. They were not cancerous, but they were benign in the lungs. And so, you know, and there's things that are worse than cancer, right? There are things that are worse than cancer. Some weird, rare autoimmune diseases can be worse than cancer. Dobermans drop dead of a heart attack all the time. That's a
Right.
genetic,
And wobbler, neurologic
you know.
issues.
So yeah, I mean, there's all these things, but we're talking about cancer. And
But interesting, I wanted to mention the benign tumor factor
yeah,
is yes, benign tumors can be totally life-ending, you guys. Even though they don't metastasize through the body, they can destroy the organ that they might be hosting in. So, and they don't respond to cancer treatments like normal. So I had a dog with a meningioma, and it was benign, and everything I knew to do on other people's cancer dogs, nothing. Did not respond to it. It drove me crazy.
Oh, absolutely. Like you're like, oh my God, my horse died of an infiltrating lipoma in the intestines. I didn't even know that was a thing. I've been out of the horse world for a long time.
It's pretty.
He woke up, thought he was colicking, and dead by 3 o'clock. I'm laying in a hump, just crying. And it was an infiltrating lipoma. They give you a chance of, surgery or no surgery. The guy's like, I don't think he's going to survive it. So we made the choice of doing no surgery. He did an autopsy or necropsy,
Necropsy.
and sure enough, there's no way he would have survived. So at
Good.
least I got to know that because you can turn the left door, you can turn the right door, and
So the irises mark on those lipomas.
well, see, I would love to know that.
Yeah, well, we have done enough dissections now that we are very consistent on those lipoma marks. In fact, the horse that we dissected last week, we marked not strangulating, but they were necrotic calcified lipomas, and I had that written on my assessment before we cut her open, and there were 5 of them.
See, and that's another thing, like, using iridology and other methods to read the body are huge. And there are ways to know that something is going on and prevent it, and, heal it before it gets out of hand. I have a up close picture of my horse's eye, who
Oh, cool.
maybe we could see something. That would be
Yeah,
fun.
submit your horse's eye. We'll
Yeah.
go through
Yeah.
it. We have
I have
a
to find more
practice
time
class
to,
December
yeah.
2nd. If you want to come to our iridology practice class.
Wish I could. I have to hold off on all of that stuff because of my book, but I'm going to, after this tour is over, I'm going to find the time to crack down on the iridology study. I've done a little bit of it before, and then, herbs took over. But
Well, and you are going on tour. So you guys, Rita, if you don't know already, Rita has this amazing book that is coming out in February. It is available at look at that. It's so beautiful. And she has a t-shirt to match. I'm gonna dump the links in all your live streams because we're live streaming on 3 different platforms actually today. And it will be available
like my
in
little
February,
friend.
but it's a pre-sale across Barnes and Noble, Amazon, all retail book
Yeah,
sources.
anywhere. Target, BAM, Bookshop, all the Amazons, wherever, like UK, Australia, Canada, it's everywhere. My publisher made sure it's distributed by Simon and Schuster, so it has good distribution. And pre-orders help me so much. And just a little soapbox on the pre-order. The reason why pre-orders, this is another one of those things, I wish things that weren't like this. But turns out, pre-orders are so important for the success of a book and the distribution of a book. When they come out, it pretty much tells you if you're going to get any type of press, any type of recognition, be up for any type of awards. These are all things that are based on your first day sales. So any type of pre-order counts as the first day. So that's why it's so important. And for me, it's so important for me to get the information out there so that people can use the book and see the book. Like I have, like for instance, Poppy, we were talking, and I have a vaccine detox in here. I've got pre and post surgery prep and care. A lot of the things that people have asked me for, how to heal leaky gut, how to deal with a dog who's taking antibiotics or has taken antibiotics, because antibiotics is a huge factor in cancer.
Yeah, my sister believes that too. My sister's a researcher. Um,
Yes,
she wrote The Plastic Ocean, actually.
I love.
And yeah, and she believes that antibiotics is a big source of decline. It destroys
Yeah,
her.
it declines the body, and a lot of clients will say to me, "Well, he we had antibiotics 2 years ago." The
It's
answer is,
suppressive. It's
yeah,
all suppression.
it shouldn't be affecting him now. If you do nothing, okay, you can ask your sister this. If you do one single round of antibiotics and do nothing to heal the body, it takes 2 years for the microbiome to recover. And I don't know if it recovers fully, but if you do absolutely nothing. So I see dogs that have 7 rounds of antibiotics. And some dogs are on antibiotics for 30 days. I'm talking about a 7-day round, right? It
Exactly.
annihilates for 2 years. So in order for your dog to recover from antibiotics, you need intense therapy. I will tell you right now, I know that antibiotics were a big contributor to me getting cancer. My whole life changed after I took Cipro and Flagyl in a hospital without permission, right? I was passed out. So, I didn't have a choice in the matter, right? I didn't have a choice in the matter. But then came thyroid disease, then came Hashimoto's disease, then came food allergies and food sensitivities. I was more sensitive to electricity, more sensitive to EMFs. The more inflammation you have, the higher level of sensitivity you will have to electromagnetic frequencies. Isn't that fun?
That
Uh,
is so crazy. And I just am in awe over all of this information. It's mind blowing. Just inflammation in general, all of this metabolic issue, it's on the rise in horses, dogs, cats, humans. Everything's inflammation, inflammatory responses. But I love that I never credited the nervous system to that degree. And I really appreciate you bringing that up because nobody's talked about that,
I
Rita.
talk about it in depth in my book, and I also teach you how to make a protocol, like what needs to be in that protocol and in what order for almost every dog. You got the nervous system, then the lymphatics, then the liver, and then give herbs to support whatever disease you're trying to work on. Um, I will tell you right now, the sweet chestnut and the sweet chestnut for hemangiosarcoma, um, and the tamarisk. Another remedy that's really great for bleeding, internal bleeding, is yarrow. Yarrow is an excellent alternative to Yunan Bayao, however you pronounce that. I'm not good at pronunciation,
No,
Poppy.
you did it
Um,
good. You did
oh, thank
good.
you, thank you. Well, we got a win. We have a win. But
Woo.
like yarrow is excellent for hemangiosarcoma. Um, I use it a lot in dogs. People that are afraid their dogs are going to bleed out. Um, uh, and a lot of times the way that an herb works on the outside is definitely another way that it works on the inside. And like recently, my basset hound got bit. Lola, obviously she's having a month, but she has these huge ears. She's a basset hound. And my big bulldog decided to haul off and clock her one in the ear. Oh, well, we turns out there was like a chewy buried in the yard. So my bulldog was guarding the yard, and Lola was about to walk out the front door to go to the bathroom. And Gertie hauled off and ripped her ear. And, she had a gash about that long in the ear. And, ears bleed like crazy.
Well,
I
and
mean,
they get those
gosh.
big
Yeah.
swollen
And it was almost a through and through.
hematomas.
Yeah. Like it was almost a through and through.
Oh,
When, so all I did is I went and got powdered yarrow, right? Blood's coming out everywhere. I took it, I took her ear, I poured it in, and then I patted it down into the wound, right? Bam. Blood stopped, just completely never bled again. No pain. She was out digging in the yard. That's how we found out. We thought Gertie was just being mean, but she wasn't. She was guarding whatever. Lola went out and got it, came in with like a face full of dirt, and her ear is just sitting there doing whatever. 2 days it was healed up.
That's amazing. I've never
You could
used Dora
barely
that
see that,
way.
you could barely see that there was a gash. I mean, you could see that she had something going on, but there was nothing going on. And we just kept packing the yarrow, and then we clean it out and pack the yarrow. You just pack, you don't really need to even clean the wound, because yarrow will clean the wound, it will stop the bleeding, and it will heal it from the
So it
inside.
has a natural astringent in it. And it's a hormone factor. I've used it in horses with hormone issues, but not for bleeding. That's so
Yeah,
cool.
it's great. So it does act on the inside the way that you can use it on the outside. And so it's a great hemangiosarcoma remedy to keep from bleeding out. And there's just so many herbs that you can use with cancer, depending on what you feel the toxicity is. Is it more pollution? Is it more emotional? Is it a blend of the two? I've had just success after success in dealing with that, because I don't necessarily think of the cancer itself unless it's like hemangiosarcoma or osteosarcoma, where it's been allowed to proliferate. Then you really have to take some speedy action to try to elongate, because the window just keeps closing really quickly.
Right.
And osteosarcoma is very painful. So very, very painful. And so you need to get pain relief on board, and you need to get anti-inflammatories on board, and then you need to stop, you need to stop the cancer from proliferating. So, but normally, if we can get a good window, we can get things on board that start making systemic differences, where we're not necessarily trying to heal the cancer, because I can't practice medicine without a license. We are supporting the dog for longevity. And I only go by symptoms. Like, how are we doing today? Are we playing? Are we eating? Are we pooping? Are we peeing? Are we happy? Are we enjoying our dog? If all of those things are yes, we're going to live to another day. We're going to go to the next day, and sometimes we forget all about it. And that's where I think the gold is where you can just be like, well, they say she has cancer, but I'm not sure, because we stopped testing and we're just going by quality of life. And sometimes you can get years out of that.
I love that. Angel Jones is asking, can you get cancer from chronic pain?
No, but you have to ask yourself why you have chronic pain.
Right, because
That's so the
that's a
question should be,
constant stress.
yeah, can you get cancer from chronic inflammation? And the answer is yes. But the body usually starts deteriorating in its weakest point, where, where you've had the most issues. And diet, I mean, as we can all say, I'm sure you've talked to this in nauseum in your groups, diet is everything. We have to, as humans, we have to clean up our diet. It helps us deal with stress. People are focused on adaptogens. Well, our food can help us deal with stress more than anything. Um, Sugar, right? And sugar is creeping. It's so rampant in the horse world, but
Yeah, you're right.
sugar is creeping into our all natural dog foods, our all natural dog treats. We've got honey now that's coming in there, and uh
Molasses.
molasses, yeah. And now there's like meat jerkies that are made traditionally with sugar. Um, you know, you want to get all forms of added sugar out of your dog's diet. I'm not talking about fruit. I'm talking about uh added sugars. You
How do
know,
you feel about glycerin?
Glycerin does not spike blood sugar.
Awesome. Thank you.
So yeah, it does not. I talk about that in the herbal doc. Um,
Woo!
but yeah, glycerin does not spike blood sugar. So I'm not worried about glycerin. Glycerin has its own issues with the stomach and nausea um and decreasing appetite and certain things like that.
It's an
But
odd warming sensation too.
on your hands too.
Yeah.
It does. Like, I do not like the feel, like when I do a glycerin, or like when I'm using glycerin, I try at all costs not to get it on my hands. I'll put gloves on and everything. I can't handle it. It does have odd, warm, sticky sensation for sure.
Yeah.
Um, I don't personally like it in my body as well, unless it's highly diluted. But dogs seem to tolerate it. But a lot of times, dogs will have symptoms, and glycerin will be the culprit. So I'm not, I try to balance out any type of glycerin usage. So, but yeah, I mean, there's just so many ways to deal with cancer, and there's lots of healing modalities that I've had luck with. Not for my, like, I don't do them myself, but like frequency specific microcurrent. That is very promising. Um, red light therapy is also very nice. Uh, acupuncture, meridian therapy is just great too. Iridology to help you look at the body on the inside of the body. As you know, it can be as effective as an MRI for someone who knows what they're doing. You know, um, there's so many things, and we're so privileged to be privy to all of these things now that we desperately, I mean, desperately do need in lieu of uh I would say what the normal medical establishment is offering for cases where they can't be helped. There's lots of people that are sent home, sorry, we can't help you. My partner was one. So my late partner, she did die of breast cancer, but they told her she would be dead in a year, less than a year. Uh, she died of a pharmaceutical interaction in year
Oh,
6.
you're kidding me.
No,
Oh,
she died from singular.
from C.
So an allergy medicine. I didn't know she was on it, but yeah, an allergy medicine. It shut her pancreas down. She's just one of those people. She probably had a double MTHFR mutation, I'm guessing, because she was one of those people that reacted, that had the rare symptom of almost everything she ever took, that kind of thing. So, yeah, but she lived for 6 years. She was on very, very protocols, but I believe that her protocols were like a firewall. They never cured her cancer. It was super aggressive. They never cured her cancer. And there was a huge emotional component, right? We're not going to get into that, but there was a huge emotional component there. But it was like a firewall. And it was low THC cannabis, high CBD, less than 10% THC. She took that, Rick's oil, basically. It's like sludge. She took a gram a day, which is a
Okay,
lot.
so brick soil. Nobody, I've heard the term. I'm familiar with it, but let our viewers know.
Rick's oil is a concentrated cannabis oil. It looks like tar, and you have to be really careful with it. Like a dog and a person would start out at like a quarter of a size of a piece of rice. Maureen had been smoking marijuana most of her life and had a high tolerance already. So she worked up to a gram a day. It took her about 3 months, not to be like completely incapacitated, like she could function. Um, and she had to stay below 10%. Maximum was 14% THC. Otherwise, it would actually make her tumors grow. Um, she had
Wait,
estrogen based.
what?
It's
Say
true.
that again.
Yeah. So estrogen based cancers, you need to be careful. Um, not all the time, but a lot of women, um, when I was caring for her during that time, I spoke to a lot of women with estrogen-based cancers, and they couldn't use like normal Rick's oil, super high in THC, right? We had to find strains that were super high in CBD and low in THC. Otherwise, her tumors would grow like a wildfire.
THC has estrogen or an estrogen mimicker.
Well, I don't know the mechanism, but a lot of women have had their tumors grow very fast on high levels of THC.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for
Estrogen-based
sharing
cancers,
that.
there must be some estrogenic uh something mechanism that goes on there, but it's not for everyone. But actually, I mean, I could definitely say that I met more than 10 women online where, yeah, no, I can't take THC at all. It makes my
Do,
it makes my tumors grow.
do
Um,
you think it's testosterone suppressive?
it could be.
Yeah. Interesting.
Um, I just don't like, I just take that as as a straight up guideline, and you'll know it right away. And when you stop, like when we figured it out and she stopped with the high THC, her tumors went down just like that, right? I mean, really quickly, because she had one in her choroid tissue over here, and she couldn't see out of her eye when it would get big. And then as soon as it started shrinking, her sight in her right eye would come back. So it's
Wow.
like, but she did tons of mushrooms, and high volumes, like 6 to 20 grams a day when she could stomach it.
Let me ask you, did she lose her hair doing that?
No.
Okay. The reason why I'm asking you is my sister had lymphoma and she pretty much did tons of cat's claw and maitake. And she actually created like her own chemo and started losing her hair. She ended up doing one round of chemo because the doctors couldn't figure it out, but the tumor vanished. The tumor was totally gone by the time they cut into her. But yeah, she took so much of it, her hair started falling out. I was like, Shelly, that might be a little too much.
Yeah, it might be a little too much. But when you're dealing with that, and especially you're a human, um, I think we always think more is better, right? And you don't have access to a scan all the time, right? You don't have access to seeing, well, is this working? Is this working? Um, but if you know how to read the body, right? If you know how to look at the body and look for symptoms, and the body will talk, um, then you can tell if you're doing better. You know, Maureen flourished for 6 years, and she got to do everything on her bucket list. Um, and we spent like 2 years doing everything on the bucket list. It was awesome. And uh, you know, but her basic regimen was cannabis and mushrooms and herbs. So it
And I love that you elaborate on the amount because nobody really specifies an amount. And in a crisis situation, you could do quite a bit. It sounds like you're doing a lot of mushrooms. And
uh
I wouldn't have thought of that.
and the way that she got them in her was in a smoothie. So we would put the powders in there, and she did the tinctures too. And you can't measure the grams in a tincture. So she would do a little bit of the tincture, and we would do the powders, the real mushrooms powders, and she did really good at that. And some days she could stomach like 6 to 8 grams. We would do little smoothies throughout the day, and it'd be like up to 20 grams a day. Usually she was around 10 to 12. Um, just depending on what she could do because her stomach was a little wonky. But
Right. Would
yeah,
you do that with a dog, Rita? Because I talked to Kelly Marin, who created Green Juju, and she
yeah,
created Green Juju because of her cancer dog. The green like smoothie thing that she does. Would you just do multiple doses on an extreme dog?
yeah. So, you can titrate the dose throughout the day, you know, and the other thing is even if you have to give a dog something like cottage cheese or something that you wouldn't normally do with a cancer dog, right? But if you're getting it into them, I think the benefit outweighs the cost, right? If
Right.
you're getting something really good into them, because the issue with cancer dogs and people, they lose their appetite. And I will tell you, a great appetite stimulant is about 150 milligrams of CBD. Okay. Most people are just putting tons of CBD, right? If your dog has a problem with appetite, start out the morning with just a really low dose between 50 to 150 milligrams. And that's so you get uh okay, so I said that wrong. What I mean is get a bottle that has a total of 150 milligrams, okay? And then just give them a little bit. So like I would say 10 to 20 milligrams of CBD,
Okay.
just a small little dose. And that's a big dog. So like a little dog would be like just 1 or 2
And what
milligrams.
about ginger, Rita? I love to use ginger for quelling.
Appetite?
Yeah, quelling the appetite and then arsenicum also.
Um, Ginger is fine for most dogs, but it's going to be really good for dogs that are cool,
Oh,
right? Choosing using energetics to choose your regimen is so important. Um,
So
because there's certain herbs that aren't going to work for your dog. They're going to actually work at a detriment. You know, everybody wants to give turmeric, but it doesn't work for all dogs, especially dogs that are already warm to hot. You're not going to get that benefit. I might get it short term for 2 weeks, but then it's going to turn around and make your dog miserable, and it's going to cause more inflammation. So, dealing with energetics is very important. Learning if your dog is warm and cool or damp or dry. You know, that's I think one of the things that people should learn in their toolbox. As you know, Poppy, I'm very big on that, but especially
yes, I
when it comes
know.
to
You're
especially when it
busting
comes
me.
to cancer.
So, and also turmeric is heavy in testosterone. So if you have a prostate type of issue, turmeric can aggravate that. So any testosterone-based cancers is a bad idea too. So because of a hot dog, would you use like cooling stuff like peppermint
I would use like rose hips. Um,
or
There's a
roses?
lot of plantain. There's lots of cooling and slight nettles. Um, Nettles are really good, in my opinion, for dogs that are compromised in general.
Just the nutritional punch that it packs.
And it has an entire systemic effect on the dog, you know, very, very systemic effect. And I love that about nettles. Nettles are just awesome. There's a ton of warming herbs, there's a ton of cooling herbs, and there's some in between. And you just want to make sure that your dog, when they have cancer, uh, isn't really consuming things that just are not appropriate for them. I think someone's got the heat
Yeah,
on.
and you guys, if you want to learn more, Rita has a whole classroom full of courses. She's got her basic short courses, and then she actually has a herbal 1 and herbal 2 course, right?
No, the herbal two is not here yet. The herbal one is finishing. It'll be done in a few months, and then you can start that any time. And then I'll be doing the herbal two. I have a Lyme and tick-borne disease course coming out in the spring. I do deal with energetics in my book. So I teach you energetics in this book, and I also have an energetics course, and the level one deals a little more in depth on energetics, dealing with your dog as a ecosystem. So uh, yeah, I do, and I also have a podcast for those that
Oh
are on.
yeah, we love your podcast.
Yeah, you can listen to my podcast. I talk about energetics in my podcast. You can search energetics on my podcast and find an episode that's I have over, I think I'm on my 105th episode of my podcast.
Wow. And you're going to be on tour across the
Across the country.
US?
Yes.
Are you
Um,
going to UK too?
yes, I am going to the UK next October, but I will be February, I'll be all down the West Coast. Then I'm going to be around home in March, and then most likely um, I'll be in Michigan, Illinois. Uh, God, I'm going to be so all up the East Coast, New York, um, Indiana. I might even be in Kentucky. You never know. Um, God, there's so many places I'm going to be. Wisconsin,
How do we find out?
Nevada.
Do you have
Arizona.
like a calendar or formal?
Yes. So I'm gonna once I get my schedule out, I'm going to list it on my dog website, Herbal Dog. The Herbal Dog has a website.
Oh, it has its own website. Okay,
Yes,
great. And then these will be book tours, and you'll be doing a book signing.
yes,
So we
um,
bring our pre-purchased books to your book signing,
yes, and uh, you can bring that to the book signing, and
and then you'll do a presentation, right? A
yeah,
little.
I'm going to do a reading, and I'm also going to do a presentation. We're going to talk about something from the book and kind of elaborate on it. And then always Q and A is my favorite. So we're going to do Q and A, and it'll be fun. It'll be totally fun. And my next book is almost 60% written, and
Oh,
it's a canine cancer book. So
oh my gosh, that's so exciting! I cannot wait.
yeah, and Poppy, I'm going to interview for the book, you for the book. So
Oh,
good.
okay.
Yeah. I have
Thank
a
you.
hit list of people I'm going to interview for the next, like I've written half, half needs to be written. It'll be written over the next like year and a half and then probably come out in about 2 years from now. So I'm
Hey, I
excited.
wanted to ask you about suppositories. Do you do herbal suppositories in cancer dogs?
No,
No. I was wondering with the anal gland tumors.
um, no, I don't. But I have been, I have taken, plastic syringes and squirted things up the
That's yeah.
hook.
And I think that's like I would think like that. I've done that before. And I've
Yeah,
done
when I
coil
say
silver,
suppositories, I think about the little ones that girls make for their periods and
yeast
stuff.
infections.
That they make them out of glycerin and some other things. Some I can't coconut oil and so that's what I think. I've never made those for dogs, but I have definitely used a syringe.
So a rectal treatment
Yeah,
is great. And you could do you rectal ozone?
I don't work with ozone,
Okay.
so I mean I'm not against it at all. It's not my jam. I tend to focus on something I'm really good at, and I'm good at herbs. I'm not good at ozone, but Margot Roman is. I just I don't know about it. And I heard that rectal ozone is good. And a few of my clients have machines um that
I
you
I personally do it to myself. And I feel so much better when I do it. I have to say I'm a tiny bit addicted to it.
oh
But
for
it
you.
it it will kind of rip you a new one, so you don't want to do it very often. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know anything about it.
Yeah. It's kind of worth a try, let me tell you.
Okay.
Take my word for it. Makes you feel younger. Um, it's a gas.
Yeah. I remember because my hot tub had an ozonator.
Uh-huh.
Not my current hot tub. The one I had in Tennessee had an ozonator, and you could smell it, and you were supposed to turn it off before you got into the hot tub, but then turn it back on. Sometimes I'd forget, and I'm like, oh, ozone's on. I can smell it. I remember what it smells like. It has that unique smell. But I did use ozone for all of my mouth work that I've
Oh,
had.
that's awesome.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, very cool. All right, you guys. Anything else you want to share with us before we say goodnight? Am I missing something, Rita? I feel like I am.
What do you mean missing something?
I don't know. I just feel like I'm missing something that we should have talked about, but we didn't.
There,
So
we could talk for hours on cancer.
I know.
My biggest thing is again from what I said in the beginning, um our automatic way of being a lot of times when we get a cancer diagnosis ourselves or when our dogs get our cancer diagnosis, right, is to freak out and to make decisions based on fear. Your dog is not going to explode, right? Not in that moment. Go home, take a breath, have a moment, breathe, and make choices based on, you know, guidance that you can get from someone you trust and not from just white fear. Okay. Because, those are the type of things that really bring our immune systems down. And your dog can smell you. That's the biggest thing, when your dog like when your dog smells adrenaline and cortisol all the time because you're up here worrying about them, you know, um, you lose out so much time enjoying the dog that you have in the moments that you have left with them. And by being obsessed, just like I said, cancer doesn't need to happen every day. You know, if you're working on your dog and you're trying to save their life or you're, working on your whatever you're working on, it doesn't need to happen every single day. Have days when cancer is not a subject and you just have to stop thinking about that and enjoy your dog. Enjoy the dog that you have in front of you. I think that's the biggest takeaway for me, because cancer gives us like this, it gives us this like definition of that death is coming, right? But every single person and animal on this planet is going to die, right? It's
Exactly.
part
Thank you.
death is life and life is death, right? And it's death is a part of life. It's just not the part that we want to look at, right? And everyone's journey is different. And we need to support people in their journeys of the way that they want it to be. There's no wrong answer. But I think that we lose a lot of time by being just overcome by fear. And it cancer again gives us that definition of death. Like, okay, and when we beat cancer, right? Which I don't like the B word, but when our dog lives longer than what someone said they're going to do, we feel good about that. And it's good as long as their life quality is good. But they're still going to die, you know? And how do
Yes.
we want that to be? Do we want it to be in joy and do we want to really enjoy themselves? Or do we want it to be in daily fret and feeling horrible and guilty and shameful and all that stuff? Like I said with my pug's eye, right? There's technology now, there's a medicine out there that could have saved her eye. And every time I look at her, I wish she had her eye. But you know what? She doesn't have her eye. I didn't have the medicine, and we're moving on. I'm a
Right.
proud owner of a one-eyed pug, and she does it very well. Um, and uh, and we make one-eyed pug jokes with her. We call her a little pirate, right? She's
I
my
love
little
that.
lover. So, but like, you got to let that go because you didn't have that information then. You didn't have it. You got to be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself, because your dog wants you to.
Yeah. And I don't think your dog ever holds it against you.
Ever. Your
Never,
dog is
ever.
there.
And-
Your dog is there. And oh, I wanted to close. Let me close with something, Poppy.
Okay, but I wanted to say something before you
Oh,
close. Is
yeah.
I think the benefit of cancer, if there is a benefit, is the
Okay.
fact that you get to do your bucket list. So it is not like a car accident or a heart attack or
Yeah.
something like that. You have, like Rita, you said it, you got to do everything your partner wanted to do in that time frame. And it's a huge priority change. I had dreams and goals for my dog that I always wanted to do. The dog that ended up with the meningioma and he ended up paralyzed, but by golly, we did the bucket list and we lived out that last year, walking in his wheelchair through the mountains and through the snow and everywhere we could go, and just lived out and had the greatest memories. And he like loved people in his wheelchair. He would run up to them and people would hug him and pat him, and they just it was a great experience.
Yeah, and you're right. Like there's that one song, Live Like You're Dying, right? We all are. And we just forget about it. And cancer, there are some things I remember when I was doing some emotional work when I got diagnosed. I didn't do chemo or radiation. I had surgery. Um, and I remember when I was doing some emotional work around having had cancer, I mean, after I got through the surgery and the like the rehab and things like that, I had a radical hysterectomy. Like after I got over that, I had to sit and look at like, okay, because I'm an analytical person, right? Okay, I never thought I would ever get cancer. Just wasn't in I'm like, I'll never get cancer. You know, um, I did. And it was an eye opener for me. And I had to look at myself and go, okay, we need to make some changes. Girl, you need to take care of yourself. Like you're ignoring yourself. You knew this was coming. You ignored it. I ignored it. I did. There's a great book by Gabor Mate called When the Body Says No. There's a part in that book he might as well be writing about me. Like, oh God, my body said no so many times. And I just was too busy. I was too busy to care, right? That's not a convenient time to go see the doc. I can't do it. And someone asked me what I got out of cancer. And I was like, how dare you ask me that question?
Oh,
I did. I mean, at first.
yeah.
Then I had to come to Jesus with myself. And I was like, oh. you know what? I did get a lot out of it. It was interesting because I was in a situation, my partner had cancer too, right? So, um, there's no way I could ever say no to my partner because they had cancer. And my body said, well, I know something that they could say no to, right?
Right, right.
Okay, you can have cancer and that's going to be equal, right? One thing, which is sounds weird, but when I think about it, I'm like, yeah. Um, and Gabor Mate talks about that, and it just was like he's talking to me. But number two, I got to rest for a long period of time, and I was so exhausted. I was such an exhausted person. I'm a busy person. I'm not exhausted anymore ever. You know, I quit. I stop working. I don't work at night. I barely work on the weekends. Um, except when I'm like I can't find a date in a month with Thanksgiving that I can do a live, right? So I work like 2 hours on a weekend. That's it. I take vacations even when it's inconvenience. I take a month off almost every year.
Well, and you're a party princess.
What?
You're a party princess.
That's exactly right. I'm a party princess, and I'm a person that I wasn't before. I go on trips now. I take vacations now. I take care of myself. I say no. Like I didn't even know how to. That word wasn't even in my vocabulary before I got cancer. And so, like, yes, like as a human, sometimes when we're given the opportunity to be introspective and deal with our emotional baggage, that I definitely had some emotional baggage around it. Um, I also was a person that couldn't ask for help.
Yeah.
So, and cancer taught me how to ask for help. I had to ask for help. I didn't have income for 2 months and like nothing. And I wasn't prepared for it. And it was humiliating, but it was only humiliating because I didn't know how to ask for help, right? And people came and helped me, and it was hard to take the help. And then I realized, okay, I need to be okay with asking for help and being okay with receiving help. And a lot of women aren't. And so I think that yes, there can be lessons from cancer, and there also can be lessons from when our animals get cancer. And that's what I wanted to read to you out of my book. So I included in part one, um, dogs and plants are individuals. I included this quote from Tismal Crow. He is a Cherokee medicine man that one of my mentors um, learned from him,
Oh,
and he's an amazing man. He's no longer with us, but he's an amazing man. And he said, um, "We believe that the domestic animals were sent here to accept the diseases of humans and to show them how to heal these diseases." And I wholeheartedly believe that. Our dogs are our mirrors. Our animals are our mirrors. And if we look and can listen, they're talking. And um, sometimes that's hard to accept. But I mean, look at how much our animals, for those of you that have had multiple animals, I mean, just think about how much we've learned from them. And I would do it all over again with every single animal that I've ever lost. It's not, yes, that week that they pass on is hard. Sometimes it's a month, sometimes it's 6 months. If I talk about Frances too much right now, I'd start crying because she was my heart dog and just loved her. And, um, but it's not the amount of time that you have with them, it's the quality of time. You know, uh, One thing that I can say is I spent 2 weeks with a dog. His name was Liam. And maybe some people that are listening have heard this from me, but it really helped me understand that it is not the quantity, it's the quality. Because like when I was doing pug rescue, this little pug who had pug dog encephalitis, uh, and his parents couldn't deal with it. They just couldn't deal with the fact that he was going to die, right? So he came into our care and I brought him home. I'm a foster failure puppy. Horrible. I don't ever let me foster anything because it's not coming out of my house. And and I brought him home and we spent 2 weeks having the best time. And was he all my other pugs loved him. All my dogs loved him. Um, he was the sweetest, kindest little soul I think I've ever experienced, ever. And I remember, I still remember, I mean, I still remember him, and he was a rescue dog, and my memory isn't that grand in that department. And it was one of the best 2 weeks of my life. Um, I was forever changed by his presence, and he was in there. It was less than 14 days. It was probably about 12 and a half, 13 days. And
Wow.
I'd do it again. Do you know what I mean? Like, he didn't have cancer. He had cluster seizures, and he got to a point where they couldn't stop him. So it, you know, I only had 2 weeks with that little dog, right? I would have kept him forever, but I only had 2 weeks with him, and we made it the best 2 weeks. We had such a great time. And we didn't go anywhere special. We just spent the time at home cuddling. He was a cuddler, cuddling, hanging out, hanging out with the other pugs, and just, he would sit on my lap. I mean, but it was less than 14 days.
Wow. Gosh, I've learned so much today, Rita. Thank you. And hopefully I'll be there on Saturday. I did book some appointments prior, like
You'll
just
get the
piggyback.
video and the transcript. So
Okay, groovy. Oh, that's such a nice gift. You're so generous.
thank you. Yeah, no, you get the transcript and the video, and I also will send out like you get the transcript, but then I take the transcript, and I don't know if you know what transcripts are, but it's like a written thing of
Yeah, the whole thing that writes out.
yeah, so I take it and then I put it through this program that cleans it up and takes all the numbers out and all the craziness out. So it's just, and then I put it through another program that kind of just organizes it and cleans it up.
That's
So
amazing.
yeah,
AI is cool, isn't it? When it's used
department, I
right.
really like it a lot. Yeah, I don't have a problem with AI. So it really helps you organize things pretty quickly.
And you guys, that course is $15. It's Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard, correct?
Yeah, 9 a.m.
Okay.
standard.
Be
So
there or
be
live
probably
the
2 hours.
guilt in your life for not being there.
What'd you say?
Be there or be guilty for the rest of your life for not
Right,
being there.
right, right.
No pressure, no stress, no
Please don't
PTSD.
feel guilty. But yeah, you do get the video and the transcript if you're not around, but it will be about 2 hours long, if not 2.5 hours. I usually like to give a lot of time for Q&A too. And we take a little break in the middle.
All right. Rita, you're such a gift to all of us. Thank you so much. You and your plant medicine and your wisdom. We're all blessed by you.
Thank you so much, Poppy.
We love you. Bye.
Bye.